Yes, you read that title right. Mazda won Le Mans 8 times. Almost every living being on Earth has watched a video or read an article covering the 787B's historic 1991 Le Mans win. And lots of people claim this was the only time a rotary-engined car has ever won at Le Mans. But that's not true. At least, not entirely. Le Mans has always been a multi-class race, and while it's true that the 787B's win remains the only overall win, a lot of different lower-class rotary-powered cars have raced and won at Le Mans as well. They may have been forgotten about, and some victories are more impressive than others, but still, the rotary legacy at Le Mans is severely underrated. The 787B's victory may have been the most impressive, but it wasn't the first or even last Mazda-powered car that stood on the top spot of a Le Mans podium. So let's wind it back to the early 80s and see where all of this started. The much beloved Group C rules were created in 1982 to bring in as many manufacturers as possible. They were allowed to pretty much make anything they wanted, as the focus of the class was fuel efficiency. Everyone got the same amount of fuel they could use throughout a race, and it was up to them to create a car powerful enough to beat the competition, but also efficient enough to make it to the line. It was an instant success that saw a great influx of high-profile factory teams. The FIA was quick to add a second formula in 1983 called Group C Junior for smaller manufacturers and privateer teams who didn't have the finances or experience to justify a step into the top class. The cars would weigh less, but also have a fuel tank almost half the size of the big Group C cars, which in turn made them slower, but also a lot less expensive. This was perfect for Mazda, who were looking to expand their still relatively small racing program after racing at Le Mans earlier with GT class RX-7s. They'd be one of the first to create a dedicated Group C Junior car. Combining a new aluminium chassis dressed in a highly aerodynamic body and the RX-7's 13B2 rotor gave them the 717C, their first purpose-built Le Mans prototype. Two 717Cs were entered in the 1983 race and would face against only 3 other Group C Junior cars powered by more conventional engines. After 24 hours of racing, the little junior cars almost all retired due to mechanical issues. But not the Mazdas. They were the only ones to cross the line, and so the ambitious rotaries finished first and second in class, with one of them barely missing out on a top 10 overall. They wouldn't be able to replicate their success, as Mazda retired the cars after the race and quickly started work on its follow-up, the 727C. So since the 717C only raced once, it makes it one of the very rare race cars with a 100% win rate. 1984 saw the 2 new cars enter the race in the now redubbed Group C2 class, but weren't as successful as its predecessor, after only finishing 4th and 6th in class. The cars were immensely fast on the straights, but a gearbox issue caused both cars to lose a lot of time in the pits. But Mazda still had a reason to celebrate. The BF Goodrich Tire Company had created their own racing team mainly to promote their tires. They commissioned Lola to build them a new race car and came to an agreement with Mazda to use their engines in the car, which ended up being called the D616. So after just 1 year of racing in Group C Junior, Mazda already found themselves supplying customer teams. But while the 727C failed to live up to expectations, the Lola did the opposite, as they managed to finish 3rd and 1st in class, giving Mazda, now as an engine supplier, a second win at Le Mans. Mazda's next win would have to wait another 3 years, as the 727C and its follow-up, the 737C, did not manage to win any more races. By 1987, Mazda finally decided to once again step up to a higher class and make an all-new car. While Group C kept on gaining in popularity, over in America the GTP class did as well. Group C and GTP are very similar and differ in only a few minor regulations. The most notable is that the GTP cars weren't limited in how much fuel they could use, reasoning being that Americans weren't interested in a fuel economy race and rather preferred the cars to go all out. Some cars were able to race in both championships, like the Porsche 962, while others remained in America, like the Toyota Eagle Mark III, and Mazda's new 757 was mainly built with the GTP rules in mind. With it being a completely new car meant for a faster class, it needed a new engine. Mazda stuck with the rotary concept but now used 3 instead of 2 rotors. After failing to finish in 1986, the 757 took home yet another class win at Le Mans in 1987. But there is a catch. There was no other car in the GTP class, so all they had to do was finish. Mazda would repeat this scenario 3 more times at Le Mans with the 757 and the even faster 767B, each time winning its class against literally no competition. So these wins are arguably a lot less impressive. 1991 is the year when Mazda finally raced in Group C and took home the much talked about win in the 4-rotor 787B. Several years of working their way up on the sports car racing ladder with various cars led to this moment, and it couldn't have come at a better time, as Group C evolved into a rule set that only allowed cars with an engine size of 3.5 liters. Mazda, having spent so much time and effort into perfecting the rotary formula, decided not to do it all over again, and instead contest the last season of Group C racing in 1992 with the MXR-01, a car based on the Jaguar XJR14 powered by a Judd V10. Rotaries at Le Mans were done, and with the demise of Group C at the end of 1992, so was Mazda. However, this wasn't actually the end for rotaries at Le Mans. The 3.5-liter formula may have forced everyone to build Formula 1 style engines, but rotary engines were never outright banned by any organization. During this tumultuous period in Europe, over in America, the rotary engine was still being used for prototype racing, mainly by a man called Jim Downing. He had been racing Mazdas for years now, and was so used to the rotary engine that he decided to make his own rotary-powered prototype race car. Throughout the years, Downing improved and perfected his cars to eventually end up in 1996 with the Kudzu DLM, an evolution of the DG3 which first raced at Le Mans in 1995 and got a WSC class podium. By 1996 his DLM fell into the LMP2 class for cars with an engine size up to 3.4 liters. The DLM 3-rotor was a naturally aspirated 2-liter, but that didn't matter as by the end of the race it finished first in class, beating the only two other LMP2 cars in the race. This marked the actual final victory for a rotary-powered car at Le Mans. The final rotary-engined car that raced at Le Mans was the Auto XC LMP2, with Downing once again behind the wheel in 2002. It lasted only 5 laps, so it was an unceremonious send-off for the little engine that could. The 787B then is far from the only rotary racer at Le Mans. Dozens of Mazda-powered race cars have entered the Le Mans 24 hours, and quite a large amount of them have proved to be the strongest in class. It's been over 20 years now since the last rotary was heard blasting down the Mulsanne Straight, and it looks like it may take a while before we ever see one do it again. But if you look up the hypercar rules of today, you'll find that rotaries still aren't banned, and they even get mentioned several times as to what is allowed and what not. The opportunity for a rotary revival is clearly there. Now we just need to wait for someone to take it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the next one.